What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with a roundup and a preview for the mid-episode update that we're going to get for Echoes. So, Bungie have outlined a series of changes that they're planning to introduce with the mid-season patch, and that ranges from weapon tuning, adjustments to armor, exotics, but also ability adjustments, PvP updates with both buffs and nerfs, but on top of that there are extra changes for reward acquisition in the game, the return of onslaught attunement, adjustments to exotic drop sources, and PvP specific changes that will drop in this update as well. Then of course, it's also going to be the launch of Solstice of Heroes for the year, so it is one of the more significant updates that we get in an episode. We'll round up what we currently know about it, and if you do enjoy the video, a rating below really helps us out on the channel, but now let's get into it. And so first up, Solstice 2024 will kick off on August 6th. That's when we'll also get the mid-episode update. And for Solstice specifically, we've outlined a bunch of changes in another preview video, but there will of course be new armor. There are some mixed feelings on this armor set in the community, as well as a new weapon in the form of a bow. And as always, there'll be new cosmetics, event cards, and things like that. Otherwise, we'll probably return to the Bonfire Bash activity in the EDZ. Bungie had plans to actually give us a preview of the event in the TWID for this week, but that TWID was actually postponed, so I'm not sure if we'll get a preview before Solstice launches. It's possible early in the new week before the reset that Bungie could outline some things related to it, but we'll simply have to wait and see. Otherwise, we get the sandbox update portion for the mid-season patch. And again, there are adjustments to abilities, tuning for weapons and exotics, as well as reward fixes. We'll start out with ability-focused things though. And firstly, in the Crucible, Bungie are taking a bit of a pass at a couple of prismatic hunter abilities. So for Threaded Spectre initially, they're reducing the aim assist strength on it by 50% versus players, and they've also added a short delay before the aim assist takes effect. But on top of that, they've reduced Threaded Spectre detonation damage versus players by 45%, so Threaded Spectre certainly should be noticeably different after the update. Then for the Swarm Grenade, they've reduced the distance that the grenade's submunition projectiles can travel once they begin tracking a target by 20%, and so overall they should essentially be less likely to catch up with players that are actually actively trying to get out of the way of them. Those are the hunter-specific changes that we know about, but otherwise Bungie have also indicated that they'll be increasing Twilight Arsenal and Hammer of Soul damage versus bosses and mini-bosses for Titans. So that is the new final shape super in the form of Twilight Arsenal. Where there has been some feedback about its damage output, that's going to get better, and especially for bosses and mini-bosses, that's where the change really is needed, but that will extend to Hammer of Soul as well. Otherwise, for ability updates, again, given that Bungie postponed their preview of a bunch of these updates, we'll have to wait for patch notes to learn any others that we might see. But onto other pieces of gear. For armor, Bungie have said they're correcting an issue that allows swapping between regular armor mods and reserves mods to enable a higher ammo count than the current maximum. And they say it was never an intended functionality, but to help offset the fix, they are buffing reserve ammunition for all weapon types, and it's being increased by up to 15%, with weapons with low reserves for their weapon type getting a larger buff. Plus they'll reduce the cost of reserve mods by 1. Then on the weapons front, initially we were going to see still hunt changes during the August update. Bungie also spoke about the Red Death and Kvostov updates, but those all landed in the game a little bit earlier than anticipated. So for the update in August, we do know that Bungie are increasing Tex Mechanicus scout rifle damage by 30% across the board in PvE, and that will affect all legendary variants, whether it's the new one from this season or the Spire of the Watcher Scout, but also it will affect the exotic as well in the form of Dead Man's Tale. So that's quite a big change. On top of that though, they're reducing flinch for sniper rifles by 50% versus combatants in PvE, so sniper flinch will be knocked down quite a few pegs. And they're increasing Eriana's Vow damage by 67% versus barrier shields. So Eriana's might be worth trying again, and then they're removing stat penalties from Adept mods. And presumably Adept mods will have all of the benefits that they're supposed to have without any of these stat penalties. So that's what we know about sandbox tuning specifically, and I'll keep you posted when we get patch notes on Tuesday. But Bungie have also said that exotic class items will see a drop rate change as well as some new sources. So Bungie referenced them being highly sought after rewards, and the feedback that it's currently difficult to get enough drops to target specific roles. For the August update, they're increasing chances for drops when opening overthrow chests, and they say as we open chests tied to overthrow activities, the chances will increase, and higher tier chests will give bigger increases to drop chances, which should decrease the amount of time it takes on average to get an exotic class item. So there'll almost be a sort of bad luck protection element involved by the sounds of it, but on top of that, they're reducing chances from unrelated Pale Heart chests in free free roam to encourage overthrow participation. And so when players actually jump in, instead of being distracted by farming the random free roam chests, the idea is that the incentive is to actually play overthrow itself, as that will have the highest drop chance, but also they're increasing the chance stored up from overthrow chests to apply to lost sectors and co-op missions that take place in the Pale Heart. So if you happen to do a whole bunch of overthrow runs but you don't get a drop, technically the bad luck protection system should remember that you haven't had one of those drops, and then if you happen to run a lost sector or a co-op mission, of course the Pale Heart variants, the chance will remain and you might just get one dropped in there. So those are good changes overall to the existing methods. They also say we're adding a weekly challenge to the Dual Destiny mission, and players will be able to earn one additional exotic class item when completing the activity per week per character, and that subsequent completions will function normally. So double drops from Dual Destiny will once again be possible, without a glitch, of course. And beyond that, they say they have taken note of the feedback that players want to see these exotics come from other activities outside of Pale Heart, and they're continuing to consider potential changes down the road. So let us know your thoughts on the class item adjustments there, but then Bungie are bringing back Brave Arsenal weapon attunement. So of course in Into the Light we could attune to get a specific weapon from this pool. That functionality was actually taken away when Into the Light closed, but the weapons still drop in Onslaught, and Bungie are creating a new way to actually attune to them. So this is the Onslaught attunement menu that we can see. This will be housed at Zavala, and from there players can select a single Brave Arsenal weapon that they'd like to attune to, increasing the drop chance by 60% in Onslaught, and this is an increase from the 50% drop chance buff that we had in Into the Light. They add that there is no cooldown or cost, so we'll be able to swap to our chosen weapon at any time, and selected weapons will remain attuned until you change or deactivate the attunement. So if you're still working on getting a Brave Arsenal god roll of any sort, or just to collect the weapons in the first instance, this is going to make the experience in general a little bit friendlier. The final set of changes that Bungie have actually outlined though relate specifically to the Crucibles. So for General Crucible, they say they're increasing the weighting of popular 6v6 maps and decreasing the weighting of less popular options. They also have plans to improve lobby balancing with improved systems for dealing with fire teams, and there'll be an update to quitter systems, which should be more lenient for players who rarely quit or get disconnected, but much more restrictive for habitual quitters. Then for Trials of Osiris and the Passage of Persistence, for trios, while in a 3-person fire team, losses will no longer remove a win from the passage. And in competitive, they're reducing the score to win for Clash to bring the game times closer to the 8-minute target, and they're improving spawn logic for collision as well. They also say though, for Iron Banner, they'll be removing Tribute as an optional game mode as they work on additional improvements to it. They've also spoken about longer term goals that they have to improve ranking systems, and moving closer to systems where player performance in a given match has more of a direct impact on gaining or losing competitive points. But those are things coming a little bit later down the road. So once again, of course, we get the August update on the 6th, Solstice of Heroes will also go live at that point, and then 3 weeks later, on August 27th, Act 3 of Episode 1 will begin. And so these updates and the act structure, in a lot of ways, kind of plug some of the gaps that we'd otherwise be experiencing in typical or older season content back in the day. So there are certainly some positives to this new system. But let us know any changes or new content that you're looking forward to with the update next week. I figured a quick breakdown of some of the info we've been given might be helpful, as those updates have been quite scattered, and the actual preview that Bungie were meant to do this week has obviously been cancelled given the news that we've heard about Bungie and things like that with the layoffs and everything going on over there. Otherwise though, in the short term, updates and new content for Destiny 2 are continuing to roll out. So let us know any things you're looking forward to. If you found the video useful, a rating below very much helps us on the channel. Otherwise though, cheers for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon.